By the time I was 14 years old, lost 3 full families.
Wow.
And that same year, my sister moved out as well. So it was a tough time for me. I had 2 trauma responses to that, and I'll be brief about this. There's 4 trauma responses. There's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Fawn is the one most people don't know about. You just become a social coward and you appease everyone around you. That was definitely me.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Scale Smart, Grow Fast podcast. Success without alignment leads to burnout, but when you build consistent habits rooted in purpose, everything changes. In this episode, Alan Lazaros, founder and CEO of Next Level University and host of a global top 100 self-improvement podcast, shares how he went from a near-fatal accident and personal low point to leading a global team and helping others unlock peak performance. With a heart-driven but no BS approach, Alan's going to reveal how tracking habits, staying consistent, and aligning with your true values can transform both your business and your life. Alan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I don't take it lightly. In the 21st century, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of things going on. I think what you pay attention to matters tremendously. So thank you for having me. It's an honor. I appreciate it. And then anyone watching or listening, I also will not waste a second of your time. I don't take it lightly that you're listening to us.
Well, thank you for that, Alan. And for our audience out there, can you maybe elaborate a little bit more on your background? What's brought you to what you're doing today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you the shortest possible version. So I'm 36. I often joke and say I'm hoping to hit puberty at 37. I look very young. It doesn't help me in my business coaching. A lot of people don't like to be coached by what looks like a 12-year-old. But ultimately, I'm 36 years old, and it started off I'm going to try to condense 36 years into 3 minutes here. Started off tough. Birth father passed away when I was very young. I was 2. He was 28. Car accident. So started off very, very tough there. Older sister and a mom. Older sister was 6. I was 2. Mom was 31. Stepfather came into my life. His name was Steve Lazaros. So my real last name is actually McCorkle. I took his last name around age 7. From age 3 to 14, he was in my life. At age 14, he left my family and took his entire extended family with him. To this day, I've never seen or spoken to a single one of them since. That same year was tough for me because my mom got in a fight with my Aunt Sandy. We got kind of ostracized from my mom's side too. To this day, I've only seen or spoken to 2 of them since. And we didn't associate much with the McCorkles anymore because we were trying to be the Lazaroses. So I kind of, by the time I was 14 years old, lost 3 full families.
Wow.
And that same year, my sister moved out as well. So it was a tough time for me. I had 2 trauma responses to that, and I'll be brief about this. There's 4 trauma responses. There's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Fawn is the one most people don't know about. You just become a social coward and you appease everyone around you. That was definitely me. So the abandonment challenges I had, I just decided unconsciously, okay, hang on to friends and family. So I brought my high school friends to college friends to corporate, that kind of thing. And it was sort of just don't lose any more people. Unconsciously, I wasn't aware of this at the time. It's only in hindsight. The second trauma response was fight, behind the scenes. So I think there's the real world and the social world. The real world is who you are and what you are when no one's watching. The social world is when you're at a barbecue and you're around other people. And a lot of times we're 2 different people when we're alone versus with others. And I'm trying really hard to mitigate that and help people mitigate that. But behind the scenes when no one was watching, it was aim higher, work harder, get smarter. Aim higher, work harder, get smarter. Aim higher, work harder, get smarter. And I think that a lot of people that identify as achievers, a lot of it is usually rooted in pain and trauma or not being loved or whatever it is. So for me, I looked into the future. No dad, no generational wealth, no trust fund. I'm in some serious trouble. My family's in trouble if I don't do something about it. So I got straight A's through all of high school, got my master's in business, got my computer engineering bachelor's before that. And then I was off to the races in corporate. I worked for a bunch of different tech companies. Eventually ended up in a company called Cognex. I became a global 1% earner in my early 20s, which is wild. Paid off 84 grand worth of debt in a single year because I wanted to get out of debt. And then I put the rest in a Vanguard account and bought a bunch of tech companies, and that grew very quickly. This is after 08. So I graduated bachelor's in 2012, master's in 2013, and the economy was coming back in a big way after 08, and I was just kind of rode that wave. Then I got in my car accident, 26. So 26 was the turning point for me. That was sort of my quarter life crisis. And that's when I went from external achievement to internal fulfillment. I actually went past broke. I focused on personal growth, personal development, self-improvement entirely. This was 10 years ago. And I focused on fulfillment instead of external achievement. And I liquidated all my assets. I actually went past broke. I started my own company and then eventually found center where now in my 30s, I'm both externally successful and internally fulfilled. And that's what I help my clients with now. And then I coach 20 individuals right now, one of them 4 times a week, 2 of them 3 times a week, and then the rest are biweekly or weekly. But ultimately what I've found is that very few people get to that place at the end which is the fourth bucket of life, what I call it. So the first one is you're unfulfilled and unsuccessful. You don't know who you are. You're not winning at anything. We're all born sort of naked, scared, and ignorant. The second one is you are externally successful, but internally unfulfilled. That's where I found myself in my early 20s. Then you flip the script, you have some sort of quarter life crisis or midlife crisis, wake up call, and then you actually learn about fulfillment and yourself and who you are and go all in on that. But then you usually go broke because what is meaningful work is rarely what the economy pays the most for. Very rarely. And that's the whole real world, social world thing again. And then the fourth bucket is where, unfortunately, statistically, most people don't get to, which is where you want your future to be an amplified version of what it already is. Meaning you are externally successful in the economy, but you're also internally fulfilled as an individual. And that's where I think everyone wants to get. And that is what my whole life is built around now.
Oh, thanks for sharing that story. Now, you shared those buckets, and I know you take like a holistic approach to helping people and their teams. Why is this multifaceted, multidimensional strategy so essential for the real growth and especially for business owners?
So, always been kind of an eclectic, contemplative existentialist, for lack of better phrasing. I grew up in an environment that I think was very rural and uneducated. It's the kind way to put it. And I playfully refer to it as the Boulevard of Broken Dreams. I would see people around me who were miserable human beings, right? They drank like a lot. They couldn't wait for the weekend and they didn't even like each other, never mind love each other. So marriage scared the hell out of me. And I just saw these really unfulfilled human beings that were living for Friday. And I was told when I was 14 years old, I worked for a golf course and I was told these are the best years of your life. And I remember thinking, God, I hope not. Because high school for me was terrible. Like I was bullied. You think I look young now. Imagine me in high school, right? So it wasn't good. And I grew up in an environment that I feel like a lot of people were escaping their life more than designing it. So to answer your question, as an engineer, I just figure why not engineer a future that you love? I think we all know what it's like to have a trip or something we're looking forward to. What if your whole life was something you were looking forward to because you designed it so well? And so engineers are about design built on reverse engineering finish lines and goals. And so I went to an engineering school, one of the best engineering schools in the world, kind of like a mini MIT. It's called WPI, Worcester Polytechnic Institute. And I was around brilliant people. But what I found is that these people are not applying engineering principles to lifestyle design. So what I've got it boiled down to is health, wealth, and love. So who doesn't want to be healthier, wealthier, and more in love? And I have it broken down into subcategories. So the categories are health, wealth, and love. And then the subcategories are health is physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So I've had mentors in the past that are multimillionaires, very successful engineers, CEOs, this, that, and the other thing, but they're not very healthy. Right. Or maybe they're wealthy, but they're not in love. And so I just saw that and was, why would you want to be really, really wealthy, but not healthy? That doesn't, like you buy a Ferrari, but why not live in one? Live in a Ferrari, your body, right? So health is physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Wealth is how you earn your money. In other words, is it meaningful work for you? The how. Number two is it profitable, meaning is it going to be needed in the future? I always joke, say don't sell horses when the car's invented. And again, some people get mad at that because I love horses. No, I meant it as metaphor. It's a metaphor. Yeah. Wealth. And then is it increasing or decreasing over time? And then where do you invest the money? And I say invest rather than spend or consume. And then the last one is love, which is your intimate relationship, your immediate family, your clients, colleagues, team, mentor, mentees, all these things. And so if you're 1 in 100, if you're top 1% in health, top 1% in wealth, and top 1% in love, that's 1 in a million statistically, if you do the math. So it's 1 over 100 times 1 over 100 times 1 over 100, which is 1 in a million. And I realize now not a lot of people are mathematical thinkers. There's 4 modalities of thinking we can get into if you want. One of them is mathematics, and it's the rarest, which is why no one likes me. I'm kidding. But ultimately, that's what I think people are missing. They're missing the mathematical reverse engineering approach to holistic lifestyle design, because we can design a product, right? The iPhone is well designed, but why aren't we designing our life just as methodically?
Well, I really appreciate what you mentioned a little bit earlier about people, depending on their environment growing up, they were afraid of falling in love. And I'm curious, what other patterns maybe have you noticed in teams and individuals that you work with that's consistently limiting their growth?
Well, one of them that's so obvious now. So very, very excited. I just crossed I have something I call the 10,000 hour tracker. And I only coach, train, and podcast at this stage. Luckily, I have an 18-person team, and I know you're big on delegation and working smart. And I think working hard is critical to working smart, because after you beat your head against the wall for a long period of time, eventually you get frustrated enough to actually work smart. So I started working smart, and I've been in business now for 8 years with my business partner, Kevin. So at this stage, I'm able to now just coach, train, and podcast. So coaching is 1-to-1, training is 1-to-several, and podcasting is 1-to-scale. But ultimately, to answer your question, the thing that has been very clear to me, coaching people training people, podcasting. I have over 10,000 hours now. I crossed it last 2 weeks ago of coaching, training, and podcasting with people all over the world. I know you're nomadic. You mentioned you're digital nomad, so you're outside Japan, or you're in Japan rather, right now. Well, I've been nomadic virtually. I mean, I've coached people, not in every country. We're heard in 175 countries on our podcast, but I've coached people from New Zealand, people from Italy, tons in Canada, all across the United States, South America. One of my clients is in Peru right now, and people all over the world, and different cultures, different backgrounds, different industries, male and female. And eventually what you realize is that everyone is afraid of one of two things, or both. The first one is failure. That's the one everyone knows. That's the one that's obvious. Yeah, of course. No one wants to be embarrassed and fail and be seen as a failure. No one wants to be seen as a loser. But the other one that I think is rarer, but very, very, very apparent with some people is they're afraid of success. And I think everyone in life is righty or lefty. The righties are people who are really, really good at success. They're very conscientious, organized, prudent, and diligent, and good at discipline and structure and systems, but they're bad at relationships. For me, I'm very Spock-like, so people don't really like me that much. I'm good in business, but I'm not very fun at a barbecue. Yeah. And in the past, I used to drink a lot to shut down my future orientation, to dumb myself down so that I could be fun at a barbecue. Mm-hmm. So most people are really good at relationships or really good at success. Two guesses which one I'm at. Unfortunately, business is about both. You need to be good at relationships and success. So my business partner, Kevin, is very likable and relatable. He's the people person. He's the chief sales officer. I would repel people unintentionally. We have this thing called an intimidation score, and you look up the top 30, and you can research this. There's the top 30 intimidation factors is what we call them. And I had him scale me from 0 to 10, rate me from 0 to 10 on each. And he came up with a 9.5.
Wow.
And honestly, and here's the thing too, I said, Kev, these might as well be leadership qualities that I'm actually trying to dial these up, not down. Direct communication style, high self-standards, come collected, deep knowledge and super educated, all these things. These are actually very intimidating for people. Oh, didn't know that. Now I get it. Okay, why are people so repelled by me? Why does everyone think I'm arrogant? This whole thing, right? So the first category of people is the record's playing is I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not capable enough. Usually that's not what successful entrepreneurs struggle with. Usually successful entrepreneurs believe in themselves a lot. It's going to work out. You can do it. You got this. But the problem is no one likes them because they believe in themselves so much and they come off very arrogant and or hard-headed and or whatever. And so those are the people that are afraid of success. So when you reach a certain level of success, I always say rocks go up, compliments go down. So the more successful you become, the next level, the people at the previous level typically don't like you. And a lot of times you outgrow friends and family. You try to tell people hard truths. They don't want to hear them. You think you're better. You think you're so pretentious, all this stuff. So ultimately what I've found is that you are either afraid of success or failure, all of us. And if you're on camera, I'm showing this sort of floor and ceiling. So we're all sort of stuck. We don't want to be seen as a failure in our peer group, but we also don't want to be so successful that we get ostracized either. And so we stay in this little comfort zone. And I'm way more afraid of success than I am of failure. I always say this, if you want to coach, you probably need a therapist. That was me. I had dozens of mentors and coaches and I needed a therapist. And I have been working through a lot of this in therapy, so I'm not as scared as I used to be. The old me wouldn't even have been able to say most of this. And then if you want a therapist, you probably need a coach, which means you need to learn how to actually be successful and disciplined and consistent.
And what would you say is like, if someone was trying to get started with this, what is like a piece of advice you would share to help them start having that consistency?
Yeah, well, the first one is check in with your self-belief. So the 3 beliefs you have to succeed in anything is it's possible for you, and it'll be worth it. And so if you don't have those 3, so for example, Next Level University, we have 2,073 episodes now. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that because you cannot do 2,073 anything without a ton of belief. And my business partner, Kevin, didn't believe in himself that much. So he said he wouldn't have kept going if it wasn't for me. When times got tough and we overexpanded and we went from 119% year over year growth to 18% and then 11%, he said, I would have quit. But you were there to make sure we didn't quit because you knew it would be worth it. And one of the problems is if you don't believe in yourself, you kind of will quit because you don't have the mathematical certainty that you're going to actually make it. And I told Kevin, he's like, how did you know we would make it? I said, brother, you can't add that much value to that many people for that long without eventually being successful. Like, I don't think I can be in the NBA, but I know we can be successful podcasters. And again, successful is relative. Like, we're not necessarily Joe Rogan. We can't be. We have a personal development podcast. But we can be successful. And I've never really questioned that. So the first thing to check in with for everybody is self-belief. And the second one is humility. And the problem is once you have the first one, the second one's harder. Because when you believe in yourself that much, it's very hard to stay humble. So for Kev, he was naturally humble and struggled with self-belief. For me, I'd never struggled with self-belief, but I wasn't naturally humble. So I had to work on the humility piece, which is, listen, you can do this and you are great and you are smart enough. However, you better stay conscientious and disciplined, and you better stay humble, because you're going to get hit in the head with a brick if you don't. And so how does every business owner balance those two is the first thing I look for. If you don't have both self-belief and humility, I will not work with that person.
Every day, your top performers are buried under emails, scheduling, and reporting. Work that doesn't move the needle. The result? Frustration, burnout, and worst of all, lost revenue. That's why we created the Executive's Guide to Scaling High Performers, a simple, battle-tested framework to eliminate busy work and unlock your team's full potential. Inside, you'll get the exact steps top executives use to retain A players, boost productivity, and free up their team for high-impact work. Stop losing revenue. Go to workergenics.com/growthhub or check the episode notes to download the Executive's Guide to Scaling High Performers now. So when people, they've got the mindset figured out, the next step is, cranking up the performance. And that's a big part of your philosophy that you've shared. How would you define this peak performance, and why is it critical for leaders looking to scale without burning out?
Nice. Well, so peak performance, I think a lot of people, you got to go back to first principles. So peak performance, what does that even mean? It sounds really cool, but what it actually means is on a graph, XY axis, it's like an upside down horseshoe. And the peak is the max. We all remember max, min, median, all that kind of stuff from math class. And I'm a big math guy, so everything's in numbers and equations for me. But for people that it's not, it's an upside down horseshoe on a graph. The max is the optimal performance. If there's a great TED talk on this, I wish I could quote it, but too little and it's not optimal, too much and it's not optimal. So there's something called an optimal stopping problem in math theory that I think is critical for anyone to understand, because people say, oh, well, that person always does the right thing. No one always does the right thing. Aristotle used to say, who can do the right thing in the right way, in the right amount, at the right time, for the right reason, with the right people? That's optimal. What's the optimal chess move? And the truth is, the optimal chess move changes the moment you move one piece on the board. And so in business, it's not 24 pieces, and I don't even know if it's 24 pieces. I think it's 48. I don't even know. But the point is, it's not a finite game like chess. It's an infinite game with 8 billion people on the planet, infinite semi-finite resources, and there is no optimal decision, but you need to want to find the optimal decision knowing you'll never find the optimal decision. So for example, right now in real time, I'm talking too much. I went past where most people will shut off. So I went past optimal. So that's the problem with life, is we aren't educated enough to understand what peak performance actually is in a given moment. So for example, this podcast episode, I saw this on my calendar. I have a bunch of things on my calendar, coaching, training, and podcasting, and I had to optimize my day around this. And then my next call is at noon. So I have 29 minutes and I better be on point because that's my highest paying client. That's peak performance. Peak performance is making sure you're in a peak state at the optimal time and you are effective in that chasm. If I was in a bathing suit right now, that would be not optimal. That would be inappropriate, right? And so, but I did bodybuilding competitions. I have these trophies behind me. That being in a bathing suit on stage in bodybuilding is optimal for that setting. So life is, I think most people are not winning in life, mostly because they don't understand themselves, others in the world well enough to make optimal choices. And choices, best way to describe this, for anyone who has played blackjack, for example, if you're a gambler, there is an optimal time to double down if you can count the cards. And my point of this is that in life, everything is built on statistical probabilities. There's chaos theory, and there's constraint theory, and there's game theory, and there's mathematical, and there's physics, and there's biology and chemistry, and there's all these sciences that essentially allow you to optimize your decision-making for success. But the problem is most business owners are either really good with people or really good at success, and almost never both. And most business partnerships struggle because they're doing this all the time because they're too different. So Kevin's a creative. He's not mathematically inclined. And him and I would do this in the beginning because I would know the accurate truth better than him, but he always understood people better than me. He understood perception and marketing and sales. Like, I would repel people and I didn't know why. It didn't make any sense. It's like, my speech is better than yours. Like, I don't get it, but no one likes me. So eventually we got mature enough to say, okay, Kevin, you're likable and you're good at this and you're a creative that people resonate with. Alan, you're an engineer. You need to tell people that in advance so they don't hate you.
So that kind of brings me to this next question that, you talked about teaching people and teams to optimize without overcomplicating the process. And we talked about, there's infinite decisions that can be made in this game of life and business. People can really struggle, and some people might get this either decision fatigue or just stop making any decisions because they want to make the optimal one too overwhelming. Do you have some simple tips or systems that can help people actually move the needle and stay optimized without overcomplicating things?
Yeah, I have something called a P3 target that I think is super valuable. So I already mentioned mine. So I have 3 priorities. So every single 18-person team, everyone tracks metrics and habits, and everyone has their P3 target. And we all track our time, not only for payroll, but also for optimization. So it's 4 columns. The first column is the date. The second column is what you accomplished. No, the second column is time in minutes. The third column is what you accomplished with those minutes. And then the fourth column is tying it to one of your priorities. So when I say a P3 target, everyone picture a target with 3 layers. There's the bullseye. And then, so I have a P3 target right over here on my whiteboard. P1 is coaching. P2 is training. And P3 is podcasting. 1-to-1, 1-to-several, 1-to-scale. And they feed each other. The better I get at podcasting, the better communicator I become, the better I get at coaching, and the better I get at training. And the more trainings I give, the more coaching clients I get, right? So they feed each other. And the one skill underneath all those is effective communication. So to give you the tactic that I think is very helpful is you have to decide in advance, what are your strengths? What are your core essence? What is it that you're trying to serve people with? And then what are the vehicles? Those are the 3 vehicles. So every single one of my clients has top 3 priorities. So one of them is fitness, finance, and personal development. So one of them is therapy, speaking, and podcasting. So every single person I coach has 3 primary things that we call them the glass balls. So I'll use this metaphor really quickly, and everyone can use this immediately. It's really easy to implement, but you have to write them down. You have to pick P1, P2, P3. So for me, coaching, training, and podcasting. Every one of us is an adult who has a lot of responsibilities. The amount varies in frequency, intensity, density, and duration, but we all, if you're an adult listening, you have responsibilities. And by the way, if you're a business owner, you have more responsibility than most people. Okay, if you have 7 kids, you have more responsibility than most people. So when we're kids, we're playful, we don't need priorities. Of course not, right? So we have limited resources, time, effort, and money, and we need to allocate them accordingly. So the metaphor is we're all juggling 12 balls all the time. 3 of them are glass. The rest of them are rubber. You can drop them and they bounce. It's all good. You can pick them back up later. But 3 of them are glass. One of them's gold, one of them's silver, one of them's bronze. And I always say on my whole team, never, ever, ever drop the golden glass ball. So for me, if I had a paying client, one-on-one client, because that's my golden glass ball, that wants to book this time, I would have had to reach out to you and reschedule this, because that's my top priority is one-on-one coaching. That's what pays the bills. And that's what allows us to scale. This is grow fast, scale. That's what's important. Everyone, but here's the problem. If you don't have a math mind and you haven't reverse engineered an actual vision and a finish line, you can't choose what the priorities are. I always say this, you can't decide to build an iPhone and then go to the beach. A lot of people say, well, I want to be a multimillionaire. And then they just go to the beach. Listen, everything you do and don't do is either building toward or at all times, 24/7, 365, as heavy as this is, you are either moving farther away from your goals or closer to them. In this moment, in real time, hopefully I'm in my passion for a purpose, serving others for eventual profit. And if that's not the case, you better, reevaluate. And so the P3 target is really helpful for people but here's the problem. And this is what I help people with. How do you identify what your top 3 priorities? What's your golden glass ball? What's your silver glass ball? And what's your bronze glass ball? And if you're going to drop a glass ball, make sure you drop a bronze and pick up a gold. But most people don't know how to mathematically figure out based on their goals and dreams what their P1, P2, and P3 are. And I didn't realize that. I didn't understand my mind was so different in terms of the mathematical understanding and underpinning of reverse engineering the future.
Well, so speaking of like all the balls we're juggling, with everything people are managing, especially, business, they've got the kids, family, health, wealth, all those things. How do you stay aligned and avoid overwhelm? Is there a point in this where delegating to like executive level support can come into play and have a role in this?
Yeah, well, so you have an executive admin, as do I. My executive admin, her name is Laura, and she has her top 3 priorities, and her number 1 priority is saving me time. Mm-hmm. So, and again, as I used to be too much of a coward to share this, but I think it's important. So I have 3 chief officers at my company. I have myself, Christina, and Kevin. I'm the CEO. Kevin is the CSO. We're business partners. And then Christina is the COO. She's sort of the backbone infrastructure. So she has 3 main priorities, just like I do. Hers is number 1, support the team. Number 2 is IT and website. And then number 3 is graphic design. So those are we call them DRI, directly responsible individual. That's something I took from Steve Jobs back when he was at Apple. He had something, everything needs a DRI directly. We need to know who to point to. We need to know whose fault these things are. Kevin, at Next Level University podcast, he's the DRI. It's his responsibility. Okay, so when you build a team, an executive team, the truth that I was scared to share is the person with the highest awareness and the highest skills and the highest level of resourcefulness is the most valuable. Unfortunately, even though we are all intrinsically equal, we are not all equal in a given context. So Kobe Bryant is more valuable in basketball than I am. I am more valuable in business than Kevin is. And you're not allowed to say that out loud because people hate you. But the truth of the matter is that the person with the highest awareness, the highest skill set, and the highest resourcefulness needs to be the leader. And I used to allow Kevin to lead, and not allow, it's the wrong word, but he used to lead. And he was the CFO for a while. And he's like, dude, I told you it should have been you. I told you. And he almost drove us off a cliff. But it's my fault because I empowered him with responsibilities he wasn't ready for. And so at the end of the day, you as a leader, as a business owner, it's your responsibility. So I'm the CEO for a reason. If the business fails, it's entirely my fault. I'm the directly responsible individual to make sure we don't go out of business, to make sure that we grow and scale effectively. And that's been really hard for me over the years because I was emotionally immature in the past. And it was very hard for me to take full responsibility when it feels like some of this is so far outside of my control. Like I can't control Kevin, however, I can influence Kevin. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, to answer your original question, yes, I have a team. Yes, I think that's really important. But leadership is the hardest thing in the entire world by far. There's nothing close. I had a 24-person team in 24 departments and a charity 2 years ago. And I only have an 18-person team now. So that wasn't pretty, right? So leadership is atrociously difficult. That is, I think, the most important skill in the world, and especially in the 21st century. And that's something that we'd have to do a whole nother episode on, because I could do 3 days on leadership and still barely scratch the surface of how hard that is. But you do need a team, and you better learn the hard way, because the only way you're going to learn leadership is through building an actual team. I think that's the real tell between a solopreneur and an entrepreneur, is whether or not you can build an actual team. We have an 18-person team, and that by far is the hardest part of this company, without question.
Well, Alan, you have shared incredible insights with our audience. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom on these topics. If people want to learn more or continue the conversation with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I don't take that lightly. Any opportunity, it's speaking to people's lives. I think it's an honor, and I never want to forget that. So thank you. If you have humility and work ethic and you're into personal development, you'll love Next Level University. You can Google us, you can chat GPT us. We'll come up. We're on all the platforms. We're on YouTube. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can Google my name. All that will come up. I hope that you reach out. If you have high humility, high work ethic, and love personal development, you're going to love us. You're going to love what we do. Next Level University podcast, all that stuff. If you do not have humility, if you do not have high work ethic, and you want big rewards for minimal effort, I always say, do not reach out under any circumstance. You're not going to like me, and you're not going to like what we do, because ultimately we are strivers. We're not arrivers. We're not done. I'm not speaking from some 36-year-old metaphorical high ground. Like, I'm still at the beginning of my career, and I'm climbing Mount Everest with people. I'm not at the top telling you how to climb. Yeah. And so if you want big rewards for minimal effort, I'm not interested. I think every business owner needs to figure out who works well with them and who doesn't. And I spent too many years trying to help people that were not good for me, or I was not good for them.
Well, it's excellent that you learned that lesson and have clarity now on who's the best fit. That's perfect. So for those of you watching or listening, if you got value from this episode, do one quick thing. Hit like and subscribe so you don't miss future strategies like this to help you scale smarter. And maybe you know a business owner or colleague who could use this. Share this episode with them. It could be exactly what they need right now. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, please leave us a quick star rating. It helps us reach more leaders like you. And thank you again for tuning in. We'll see you all next time.